This is the Pub Battles Marengo scenario by Command Post Games. Today I'm going to try something quite a bit different. Ordinarily, the main Austrian force crosses here and makes their way east. There is this long, kind of circuitous route up here, across here, coming at them from the side. And oftentimes, one of the small HQs will head up that way with a little force. This time, I'm going to send Malus and the main force up on this route. We'll see if it takes too long to go that way to make it worth the while, or if it's the new way to do it. We'll begin with the Austrian breakout move. We begin with the Austrian cavalry in column, and now the rest of Malus's command. And now the Austrian artillery and some detachments that are under Malus's command. Artillery does not need to be in command to bombard, so they don't need Malus close to them. And now Austrian commander Ott moves. We begin with his artillery, firing on the French line. The French line falls back. And now the rest of Ott's command. And now Austrian's light troops under O'Reilly. They will occupy Casbianca. And now we begin with early morning, turn 1. At this point, the French know something's afoot because the Austrian artillery has opened up, but they wouldn't know anything about these troops way over here. Forward observation tells them there's someone here, and now they see someone's coming out here. The French adjust their line and move forward. O'Reilly widens his line to increase the appearance of his numbers. Malus's artillery fires on the fresh French troops, driving the thin detachment back. Now Malus is drawn. This here is all the Austrian artillery, and it opens up. And finally, Lannes reacts. Now since the French all moved first, except for Lannes, they haven't really had a chance to react to all the developments on the battlefield. Now mid-morning, turn 2, we'll see the French reaction. A little orientation, the top of the map is north. Murat wheels and heads north. Malus is drawn. The artillery moves forward, and now Lannes reacts. This here is a large hill in the center of the field. With all the Austrian artillery here, Lannes wants to get his men behind the hill. Napoleon advances forward and sends his troops north. Ott sends his troops forward. O'Reilly's troops hold, not knowing what Victor's corps is up to. And now Victor is drawn. Now he'd like to race straight this way, but he doesn't want to come within range of the artillery. He's going to fall back and come around. He leaves a detachment in Spinetta. Turn 3, late morning. We begin with Ott's troops, racing forward. Next is Murat. When he sees that the infantry is in square, he moves to try to get an edge on the Austrian left. Lannes forms up his troops around Villanova. Napoleon positions his artillery to start taking apart the Austrian line. And now Malus and his artillery, and then Victor. On turn 3, Murat's hussars also show up. Midday begins with Napoleon's artillery opening up on the Austrian line. Deadly accurate, the grenadiers are driven back. Next is Murat. He extends his line and dares the Austrians to come forward. This lone unit of Desai's corps moves forward to bolster Murat's line. And now Malus maneuvers on his left. And now Victor's corps. Lannes' corps anchors the French left on the town of Villanova. And now Ott moves forward. And O'Reilly begins moving out. And now it's early afternoon. Desai will arrive this turn. And this time he will not have missed any battle at all. And Malus is drawn first. This is not how he wants things to go. He wants to attack, attack, attack. Nevertheless, he has a plan. Continuing Austrian frustration, O'Reilly is drawn next. And finally, Ott is drawn. All 3 Austrian chits have been drawn first. This means the French can now do whatever they want, and the Austrians can't react to it. Napoleon fires at the screen of Austrian skirmishers. Drives them back. Murat anchors the French right on Desai's division and prepares to hold. And Desai arrives, racing north to the French left. Lannes reforms his line. He protects his troops behind his own line of skirmishers. And now it's late afternoon. First off, Lannes firmly invests Villanova. Victor continues heading north. Ott tops the hill, but stays beyond the field of fire. Napoleon opens up, and the artillery he can see in the center line. driving it back. Desai continues heading north, and now O'Reilly advances on the French left. And finally, Melas gets drawn last. He's been waiting for all game. He unpacks bags and rallies his artillery. His skirmishers fall back, and the artillery finally opens up on the French line. The French artillery takes a beating. And now the Austrian assault. The French are driven back under the heavy Austrian assault, and a detachment is overwhelmed on the French left. But the Austrians do pay a price. And now early evening. It opens with an attack by Victor, and Victor unpacks bags. Got to get our artillery up and firing again. You may wonder why I didn't do a flank attack with these units. I could have done that, but all this Austrian artillery here would have torn them apart before they even got to participate in that combat. And now Melas is drawn. Melas has no artillery to worry about on this end. The Austrian artillery fires on Napoleon's artillery, driving it back. As was suspected, the artillery fires on Victor's troops, but it won't be with a flank bonus, so it does only minor damage. Melas' recovered artillery moves forward. Napoleon's artillery recovers, and he pulls the consular guard over to the French right. Desai moves to relieve the pressure on the French right. Lannes reacts to the French light troops. Now here's an interesting thing. I have played this game since it came out 3-4 years ago. I don't remember when it was. I've played it a lot. And I just realized I always thought that the supply lines here and here were needed by the French as well as the Austrians. But for some reason right now I looked at the map again and I realized that the French supply lines are here and here. So if the Austrians capture these two lines at the end of the night, the French have lost. Except that the French have now denied the Austrians get out, so the Austrians have lost. At which point you simply go by the points. And at this point, casualties have been light. The Austrians have lost no one. No complete blocks. The French have lost 1 cavalry block and 1 detachment. So 6 and nothing. Which is a decisive Austrian victory, I guess. Now this might seem a strange thing, but this would not have happened if I had realized that these 2 points were necessary for French defense. This whole thing would have been different. But we're going to play it where it's got to so far. That was Lannes' move. Now we have O'Reilly's move. And of course, O'Reilly is going to go for the capture the French supply lines. Now it's Murat's move. Well, I asked the CEO and lead designer of Marengo how to handle this. He said, and this is good advice for anyone, he said, what would the referee say? If there's a referee watching this game, how would they call it? You know what they would say? They would say, battle goes to a second day, or we can play by points. Now, a second day would be interesting, but I really want to wrap this up. So we're going to go by points. And as I said, this situation won't come up again because now I'll know. The French supply points are here. The Austrian supply points are here and here. Now Miramu, he pulls back where he can. So Lannes gets in the way. His artillery fires on the detachment, opening up an attack. And this combat, this is regular French infantry. This is Austrian cavalry. It's a bad idea to attack formed infantry, but they're flanked. Not quite so bad. The French manage to retreat, and the Austrian cavalry falls back. And the one attack on the right. The Austrians were stretched out, but they were able to do the attack and wipe out the French division. And now it's turn 8. Last turn of the day. Who gets to move last and decide which attacks they want to do are critical. At this point, the Austrian army has no losses. We have 3 blocks for a total of 5, 8, 9 points. 9-0. The French would like to pull up some attacks and try to right this, but we'll see how the chit draw goes. First chit is Victor. Victor surrounds an Austrian division. Now this division cannot escape. Even though it's open here, the fact that you can't turn the unit and have room to move out, it needs half a width to move. It's trapped. That's it. That's encircled. But there's more than one way to skin a cat. We'll see what we can do with this. Now Victor attacks and he has a plan. That was Lannes. He's drawn first, then Victor, and now Murat is drawn. Murat's cavalry recovers. Now O'Reilly's troops move. There's O'Reilly, and there his troops have cut off the French army. Which means more since the Austrian army's cut off. This is what ties up both sides of the game. Napoleon moves his artillery in front of the unpacked bags. And the consular guard charges in. Now, as you know from the instructions of the Pub Battles book, this is considered touching. They need half a width to be able to have enough room, and they've got that. So this is actually considered adjacent to that. Lawn. This is artillery. Lawn blasts the French, cutting off their desperate troops. Can they save them? Oh yes, they can. In fact, these are destroyed because they can't run away from them. And now Ott moves here, puts both these in command, and they attack. Well, isn't that a turnaround? And now Melas moves. He has denied this attack. Desai's troops are attacked, and I wanted to bring these guys around and just get them in the way here, but I cannot. Movement doesn't work out right. These guys do move up. Cavalry moves out of the way, and now the artillery opens up. Reach this. Yes, they can. Forcing them to retreat into the enemy. They are eliminated. Firing at those French troops. Driving them back. Firing at those French troops. Driving them back. The only one left is Desai. Desai charges and do that combat. Gonna fall back from that combat. The French are trying to take out some Austrians. This combat. It's just a detachment, but anything is possible. But this time, the probable will happen. We'll do this combat next. One each. The Austrians retreat. French become spent. Now the big battle in the center. First you do the main combat. They're flanked on both sides, so the flanking cancels out. You got grenadiers, cavalry, 2 spent French units. Ideal for the French, 1 French casualty. That means they can all retreat. Now the only combat left is a flank attack. The grenadiers are forced back. Now the second one is interesting. Flank attack on cavalry. So the cavalry gets a +1 because it's fighting spent infantry. But the infantry gets a +1 for its own dice and -1 from their dice. So the cavalry dice are even and the French get +1. The cavalry are going to retreat from infantry. They can do that. And there you have it. The Austrians have lost no one. The French have lost 6 blocks, although 3 of them are just detachment. 3, 6, 9, and 5. 14 points to nothing. A major Austrian victory. And I would make 2 comments about that. One, it doesn't really count because I totally did this wrong because I was looking at the map wrong. And 2, really we should play a second day here. And if I were playing another person, we probably would go ahead and battle out another day. But I'm just going to let it hang. What would you do? Well, that was a good game.